That's what I'm talking about, son. Get you some of that daggone pie.
Woo-hoo! Looky there. There's your bug-eyed big one right there.
Getting started. We're getting started.
Here's what I'm talking about. Gosh dang gorilla.
Let's go, baby. Straight meat. God, look at that big one.
All right, welcome in everybody to the BAM Pod. I'm your host, Big Ed, and on the line tonight, we've got the winner of the inaugural BAM Trail tournament up at Shasta Lake. And, you know, he's a guy that most everybody out on the West Coast knows. And if you're tuning in from around the country, you probably know him too. And it's Mr. Greg Gutierrez. Greg, welcome into the show, man. Really appreciate you coming on.
Oh gosh, I wouldn't miss this for the world, Ed. We've done these before, and man, I'm having a great time. It's a good time to sit and talk about fishing, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're in this time of the year where here in California, it's pouring down rain every other day. We've got water just coming in mass amounts of snow, and in the middle of all of that, Bass Angler Magazine decided they're going to start themselves a tournament circuit, and they put their best foot forward and had the first one up on Lake Shasta for a Pro-Am. And to nobody's real surprise, you came out with the win on it. I mean, you know, it's got to feel pretty good that people just look at that and go, oh, Greg's in it. He's probably going to win this thing. I asked people that know you, and I said, hey, who do you think won this tournament? And every last one of them said, probably Greg. So, I mean, it's got to feel pretty good that people have that much confidence in you.
You know, it's funny is there are conditions up there that make other anglers that give them the edge over me, you know, and when I start shining is when conditions get very tough. I mean, and that's what this event did. You know, what we had before for the last two tournaments that were up there were wide open conditions. The fishing was great. You know, and if you had the right schools and you didn't have any changes, everything was good. But this one was one of those things where the changes happened before the tournament, shut down the big schools, and then as the schools that were found started diminishing and the water started going down, that's when I started excelling. And so yes, this time of year I've got a shot at it. But the last couple of months, really, I haven't had too much to brag about, to be honest with you. But I'm feeling pretty good about last week.
That's awesome. You know, it's. I heard you do a couple little afterwards interviews, and you know, just talking to a couple people about what was going on, and it was really interesting to hear, and exactly what you just said. I think when a lot of people hear, you know, hey, water has been coming up and now it's falling. We've got pressures coming in and up and down. You know, nothing's consistent, nothing's constant, nothing was really, you know, the lake was just in a massive influx, and that's what you were looking for. I mean, can you kind of tell, you know, let the viewers out here know, or the listeners out here kind of know a little bit about, you know, what is it that makes that what you look for? Because I would imagine that most people would fear that completely. Like, I am not going out after, you know, post front. I'm not going legs coming up, and then that's also falling now. All the cold water rushing in. Most of this sounds like scary stuff.
And to be honest with you, it's a drastic change, and I started looking for stuff. Gosh, you know, there was the New Gen tournament. I got hammered. The water was coming up so fast that I couldn't get the fish that I had pinned down. I had them pinned down on the spot, and I had a spot on spot in probably a half dozen areas where I just knew that I had solid 3.5 pound fish everywhere I went. But the water came up so fast I couldn't keep on those fish and triangulate them very well. I would get one or two. I got one or two each tournament or each day of the tournament. Same with swan bass, but this was different, right? So now instead of being water coming up, the water was falling, and they pulled the plug on the lake, and everything started flushing out. And I've been in these situations before where these fish will start backing out. The school will back out, and to be honest with you, the school backs out, but not all the fish leave. And depending on where these are, is how I targeted them. I had actually fished up in an area up in McLeod, and my good friend Billy Hines come in and said, "Hey, I've got an area up there. If you need a spot to come and go to fish, come on up. I'm catching them every cast." Well, I had fished he had two spots, A spot and a B spot. I had fished in the B spot and found fish in there, but I kind of just wrote it off. I didn't want to have to drive all the way up there, and I thought, well, I think I will if something happens. So I ended up going up there on day one, and what I found was the fish were snapping, and I could see them. I was using all my Lowrance electronics and active target, and you could see fish everywhere. And that's what I could see pretty much all over the lake. I had main lake areas, I had up the river areas in the Sac, I had a up the river area in the McLeod, and so I was planning on running quite a bit. And so once everything started developing, the high pressure, the moon was brighter, the days started getting colder, all of these elements started adding up. It really started changing where the bait was. It's not so much, the fish are pretty stuck on where they're at, but they follow the bait, and that's why they go into these creeks up there. And one thing I've always said is, and this will be, I'm giving up something here, but I'm just telling you, pay attention, write this down, however you want to say it. But when the water that flows into lake becomes colder than the lake itself, the fish change their attitude. They don't really, in my experience, run up it. They start backing down it until they stabilize. So there'll be an area back where you're going to get that water change. Now, temperature change. And so the cooling air meant that the water running off the hills and oozing out of the ground and everything else was getting colder and coming into the lake colder. But you really wouldn't feel it until you got right back, or see it until you got right back in the water. And then everything else after that first, 50 yards or so, if it's not turbulent enough to mix it, starts going under. Hot water rises, cold water sinks. Hot air rises, cold air sinks, kind of thing. And I know I would have never guessed I would have used all this stuff I was supposed to learn in school to catch fish, but it's true. It's just simple stuff that I look at in order to make decisions on where I think these fish will go. And so looking at brush, looking at fish staging, looking at current breaks, I just started running those kind of things and capitalizing on the fish that were staying in the areas.
One of the things you said in there was fish staging. Do you mean that they're like staging to get ready to spawn? Are they to work up towards the spawning beds? Are they working into staging for the big push up? What do you mean by staging in that area?
Staging in when the shad and the bait start moving into these creeks, right? Because normally it's warmer water,
right?
And that rainwater is normally warmer water, anything from 0.5 degree to 2 or 3 degrees on the broad spectrum, warmer. those minute temperature changes bring in the bait. The fish follow the bait, and they stage in these areas because the bait will move in, they'll mill around, they'll move out, they'll move back in, and these are staged up for ambush points, not so much spawn. Right now, we're a little early on the spawn. There's other places, places that are doing it, but you know, the moon phase was right, but we're still at 49 degrees in the morning, 51, 52 in the late afternoon. Still pretty cold, and honestly, the sun, the days aren't long enough. You know, that's
right.
That's where I think a lot of people miss that other key is, you know, there's a certain point when the days are longer, and these fish start transitioning more towards the secondary points, stuff like that. But we're talking about fish that are moving right up into the current, right up into the creeks, and they're staging for bait.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just think that people, I want to say what you just said there. People want to jump the gun when it comes to spawn right now. It's like, no, they're gonna move, up the spawn. And I think that's for most people, or for the average angler, I guess, to put that's like the next phase that's coming, and they get very excited about it, because that's when you start seeing, you know, bigger fish start to get caught. You start to see those big fish move up and become more vulnerable. Is that something that you feel happens soon right now? Because we're in that phase, but like you said, there's a lot of cold water coming in. There's a lot of, you know, this water, you know, maybe it's like you said, maybe it's 1 degree cooler or 1 degree warmer, or maybe what is it that, you know, when you see this, because I'm still enamored by the fact that you almost wanted it to be the worst conditions possible. And it's like, you know, every time I heard you, it was like, that's all I could think of was, man, does this guy just want to fish in the hardest water there is to fish? Because this is what, you know, I heard when you're saying that. You know, I'm listening here going, yeah, he just wants it tough. And I mean, for a person who has been as successful as you have been, I mean, you're a 2-time classic qualifier. I mean, you've been all over the country. You've fished in some of the, you know, the better lakes everywhere. You're out here on the West Coast, you're fishing your home water, and you still want it to be a tough bite. And I don't want to say a tough bite, because obviously it wasn't a tough bite for you, but a tough bite for most people, you know?
Well, and here's what I know about the tough bite for me, okay, is let's take the top 4 guys that were 2.5 pounds ahead of me. They were all 2.5 pounds or a little bit more ahead of me. Those guys all were catching numbers of fish, and they all said it. Their fish started going away. Their fish started backing out. I couldn't get them. Things changed, and I had to run. Right. All of their weights went down. The only person's weight that really made a big jump on day 2 was Jody's, and he stayed in the area. He stayed in his area, and I recognized there was a change towards the middle or end of the first day, and of the tournament. I seen it coming the first day of practice, and I was telling my travel partner Dante Ray is, yeah, things are changing. He kept asking, well, what should I do here? What should I do there? I said, hold on, things are changing. This lake is changing, and we need to be fluid. We need to find more stuff. And he's going, you got a pretty good pattern, but what are you going to do? And I just said, hold on, things are changing. Things are going to be fluid. I had an A pattern, a B pattern, a C pattern, and a D pattern going in there based on what was going to happen with temperature and everything else. Because weathermen, I mean, that's the job to have, is being a weatherman. Right. I mean, all you got to do is be right 50% of the time, and people think it's great. So, you know, again, I go back to those top 4 guys. Their fish started moving out. But what's funny is if you looked at day 2, Jody's fish, he still had a pretty good bag. He actually went up, but his co-angler Dante had a bigger bag, which made him a dangerous guy. Day 3, Jody's went down, but his co-angler had a bigger bag, and I think his co-angler had a bigger bag because he was sitting back there catching fish that Jody was overlooking, and I think that's where I think these guys made their mistakes. Is those fish didn't leave, the numbers of fish left. So when they were catching, 20, 30, they were getting 20, 30 bites in an area, down to they were only getting a bite here and there. I think those big fish were still there. Matter of fact, I went back up that creek for the last day to run up the McLeod, and those fish had left the area. There was just Elvis left the building, but it wasn't that. Elvis's helpers all left the building, and I went in there and I could see these fish hunkered up in the trees, and I made a mistake. I had 2 rods ready to go. I had one 6-pound test and one 8-pound test, and I know there's fishing line all over the world, but I use Gamma line because it is just the toughest, most abrasion resistant line I've ever used, and I've landed I don't know how many double-digit fish on 8-pound test. I can't tell you. Probably a half dozen at least, plus a 13-pounder on the Delta with 8-pound test.
Wow.
So I'm really not afraid to put it into areas like into heavy brush, into cover, stuff like that. And I've seen these fish in these trees swimming down by the bases. So in 20 foot of water. So I just started throwing my nail up into the trees, sinking it down. I'd set the hook on them. If I got them out, it's a 50-50 chance once you get them on. And I would get 3 and a quarter pound fish out a day from those piles. Well, the last day I hooked one that was just a monster. I mean, I just couldn't control it, and I ended up breaking it off. But because I grabbed the 6-pound test, in retrospect, I should have tied up a flipping stick is what I should have did, and went in after them that way. But those fish moved out of the headwaters and moved back probably 30, no, I'd say more than that, 50 yards. And they staged up in the bigger trees while all the other littler ones that we were catching, littler, those 1.5 to 2 2.25, all moved out. I mean, they were gone. Gone. You couldn't see them. I went in, side scanned. I live targeted them. I did I did everything, but the only thing I seen were big ones left. And so I ran up there because I knew those fish would be there. However, they didn't get in. Now, those were fish that I was targeting, and I think I probably could have done well with that, but honestly, I caught key fish on bridge pilings while I waited for the sun to come up and for things to get right and the water temperatures to get right in the creeks. And that's the gist of it. I mean, I caught some fish that were key fish on day 1 that helped. On day 2, I caught a couple of key fish. And on day 3, I caught 3 really good fish, including my very first cast with a 4-pound fish, followed by another 2.5. And then I just fished around bridge pilings for probably about an hour and started running, looking to get my co-angler his limit to the point where he finally had to talk me into going back to win the tournament. I mean, in the gist of it.
Tackle Warehouse has been the premier online tackle shop since 2003, with a huge selection of not only the latest and greatest from the biggest brands, but the hard-to-find regional specialties as well. Tackle Warehouse. Click, save, fish.
Wow. There was one point in there that you mentioned something, and I want to bring that out a little bit for anybody that doesn't know. most people out here know what he was talking about, but he said he threw his nail up into the trees. So when he's talking about the nail, you're talking about what?
Oh, it's a jig head I designed. Oh man, I designed that thing, and I released that in, what was it, 2016. I
Yeah.
released it for sale in 2016. And the week after I released it, I won a tournament on Shasta with it. But it's a jig head, right? If you haven't heard about it, it's basically a shaky head jig head, but it's got angles on the face that make it deflect and rock. It's got a weighting system that allows this bait to where when you're pulling it'll restand the bait up. When you set the hook, it makes a rotation and the hook penetrates through the roof of the fish's mouth. Usually, I mean, it's usually through their forehead. When you'll hear me talk about it, right through the forehead. But it's just a jig head that's got the perfect barb that allows me to put like a flirt worm or a finesse type worm into heavy cover, and I can pull it through there without hanging up or pulling my bait off of the jig head. And it just saves me time and casts, and it flat catches fish.
And that would be made by Frenzy.
It is made by Frenzy Baits. It's the Frenzy Baits nail, and yes, I do own the company, but like I said, it was when I brought this thing out, I was leading the FLW tournament at the time, FLW, now MLF.
Right.
I was leading that tournament going into the last day, and Jeff Michaels comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, I really love your bait design, but man, the hook's too big for spotted bass. I just can't catch fish with it. The spots it's too big for spots, Greg." And I started laughing because no one wants to say, "Hey, I'm kicking your butt with this bait." But I started laughing at him. I go, "Jeff, just so you know, I'm kicking your butt with this thing." And I go, "And tomorrow it's really going to be ugly." And the next day it was brutal. I caught 5-pounders on camera. I bet I was cycling through almost 100 fish a day with that bait. And I was catching them. And this tournament, I went through on day 3, probably 3, maybe 4 12-pound limits that I just tossed.
That's impressive up there for sure. And people don't know if you're across the country, you don't really know Shasta. One, it's a big lake. It's not a small lake. It's a big lake. It's not the biggest in the country. It's not it's not one of the ones that's whatever. But this is a massive lake, and you talked about how much you ran. You talked about how much you're talking about. Oh, I went to the McLeod. I went to by the pit. I went up by all these different things and the sack. And people don't understand how far it is from the sack to the McLeod. But that's how many miles is that running?
I did the math because I used Mile IQ to calculate my mileage, right?
Right.
And so just the other day, I did the mileage. And the other day on stage, I said, I bet I ran 40 miles. I know I did. I know I ran 40 miles, but I calculated it out. And Mile IQ calculates this mileage down to the Nats Patootie. I did 68.9 miles in my boat.
That's a lot of movement. That's a lot of moving around. And they say that the big motor doesn't catch fish. I have to disagree with that.
Oh yeah. And here's the deal is that, I'm running that Bass Cat, that Puma STS, really wide bottom, the Mercury 250 Pro XS, but that combination boat gets the best fuel mileage I've ever seen in any of the boats that I've run. I know that there's other boats out there that get great fuel mileage and stuff like that, but this thing here, I ran 68 miles that day, and when I filled up the tank, I think I put in 18.9 gallons. That's
Wow.
pretty good. It was it was just over a half a tank of one of my tanks. So, I had no fear of running. I topped off that day. I topped everything off knowing that I was probably going to run as much fuel out of that boat as I could. And I ran, like I said, I ran from Bridge Bay up the Sacramento Arm into I forget the name of the creek up there every time, but I ran up into a creek up in the Sac, and then I went up farther up, clear up by the I-5 bridge up there, turned around and hauled Patootie back, fished around the bridges in the main lake down around Bridge Bay, and then ran right up to the end of the McLeod, fished up there and turned around, came right back and did it. So a lot of mileage, and yes, you don't catch fish when the big motor's running, but if you're not going to where those fish are biting,
Right.
and biting like that, then you're missing out.
Yeah, like you said, it's not about when it's moving, but if you're not getting to them, you're not catching them either.
That's correct.
One of the other things you said in there, and this is, I think this is important to say, and it's going to lead me to a question that I've actually known the answer from you for 20 years, but I would like you to share it anyways. But you said in there that your traveling partner, who is fishing as a Ray, first name.
Dante Ray? Dante Ray?
Dante Ray. You said
Yep.
that made him dangerous. And the one thing about that really grasps me and my interest on that is that this is not a combined weight tournament. This was not a combined weight tournament. And the only reason that made him dangerous is because he was fishing against other co-anglers and not pro anglers. It would have made him irrelevant. It really would have made him irrelevant because as an angler, if you're not fishing for your fish, then you're not who cares, right? I mean, isn't that kind of the way it comes out? But I know your opinion on this, but I'm still going to ask the question. Do you like combined weight tournaments versus non-combined weights, or which one do you choose? And let's share, and I want to share that with everybody out there, because there's I hear it from so many different people. Wow, I don't like this tournament because it's a non-combined weight. Well, let me ask somebody who's done this for a little while.
Hi, this is Josh McMurray. I'm the city manager for the city of Oakley. We're located on the Delta. We have a beautiful shoreline, and we really want to promote the city as the gateway to the Delta and showcase everything that we have to offer. We have a beautiful downtown that's expanding, brand new restaurants. What we're trying to do is build that brand to make sure that people know that you can come to Oakley and you can do everything that you want associated with the Delta, and you can still stay here, eat here, and have a good time in a very family-friendly and safe environment.
Here's what I think. I like fishing tournaments. I enjoy talking with people and meeting new people, and I do. I love interacting with people. I love sharing, and I love teaching. But I'm at the point in my career, having fished the Bassmaster Tour, the Citgo 150s. I fished the Bassmaster Elites, and I've seen where they went. I've seen what happens when you have guys, gals, you have other folks that are in the boat and that are fishing for a lot of money. They do some strange things, man. They really do. I've had people cast over me. I've had to catch a fish in, that I was fishing. I've had people just wait till I turn my head and cast on the fish and then catch the fish. I mean, I've just had some really crazy things. So when I talk about pro-am tournaments, I think along the lines of MLF and BASS, that if we're going to have a pro tour circuit out here, that it should be a pro event. We're at that age now, or era now, where we can put cameras. Let's say we had a sponsorship from GoPro that put, had everybody, have a GoPro in their boat. If you're serious about this, let's put a GoPro in every boat and a card, and this thing runs from stop to finish, and we turn on our cards every day, and we have no issues with doing that. We just do our thing, and everybody that's in it does it. I love having these guys in the boat, but when it comes down to having a co-angler in the back of the boat, let's take Dante and Jody. Dante caught a huge bag out of that area. And I got to talk to Dante after the tournament was done, and he was just excited to tell me what he did. And I go, I don't want to hear a word. I don't want to hear a word of where you're at, how it looks, what it looks, how deep you're fishing. I don't want nothing, because it skews what I can do. It's wrong. Okay. But not everybody's going to do that. They want to know, where'd you fish? How deep was it? What color worm, and what was he throwing? I don't want to know nothing, because all that does is compromises the integrity of the sport. And I tell my guys that every single time. Anybody I'm pre-fishing with, I don't want to hear nothing from nobody. Don't tell me. So you see what I'm saying? So I think that co-anglers skew the end result of the tournament. Let's say Jody is fishing with Dante on day 2. Dante catches 12 pounds out of there. That's 12 pounds of fish that Jody doesn't have access to the next day. And then Jody draws another guy who's fished with the day 1 pro in that same area, and knows where the bushes are, how to approach them. Everything else goes back in with Jody. And guess what? He smashes this giant bag. I mean, good on him. He did his job. It was great. He had a good sack, and he's an awesome angler. But it skewed the actual result of the professional tournament that we were having. It's a pro-am. I think if we're going to have co-anglers in the back, it should be a pro code draw team event, and call it what it is. 3 days, everybody draws for the new partner, and you carry your weight, and you get co-angler input, pro input, and call it what it is. And if we really want to turn things up, say that the co-angler has to weigh 2 of the 5 fish that are weighed in. Has to. So you see what I'm saying? So now we make it a really cool and exciting event. We're forcing pros to teach co-anglers and allow them to catch fish, and hope they do catch fish, because those 2 have to be managed by the co-angler to be brought in to be weighed in the tournament. I think that's a great idea and a way to go. But honestly, I think co-anglers skew the end result of the tournament by, and not just taking fish. When I say taking fish, I don't mean, oh my gosh, he took my fish. That doesn't matter. I've had co-anglers, guys that I pre-fish with, go draw another guy and inadvertently start catching fish, because I've shown them how to catch my fish. I showed them how I'm catching my fish, so they know what to use. So now they're using this thing. The guy doesn't have that on board the first day, doesn't know what he sees it, and then the next day he comes out with that bait and he throws that technique, and guess what? He smashes them day 2. Well, the co-angler wasn't taking fish away from me. He was spreading fish to another angler just by spreading information. I know that we're trying to grow the sport, and we need co-anglers. I know that. I get it. But we also need to grow the sport for pros, for professionals, so that we have a like the BAM Pro Tour.
Right.
Credibility that's growing throughout the country. That's just my opinion. I know it's deep, but otherwise, I love fishing shared weight tournaments. I really do. But I'd really like to see those guys make it so the co's have to weigh 2 fish and weigh 2 of the 40% of the deal. Let's say if they're going to make it a draw team event and it's a shared weight, let's make the co's do it. Sometimes you guys out there, they've never caught a fish and they've won the tournament.
Yep. Yeah, and that,
Was that too much?
no, it's not. And look, you and I have had this conversation for more than 20 years about, whether it should
Yes.
be combined weight, whether it should be non-combined weight. I've lost tournaments. I've lost anglers of the year for exactly what you've said. There,
Mhm.
somebody who doesn't even catch a fish all day comes in and goes, "I won." Did you?
Mhm.
You
Yep.
know?
Yep.
You netted fish. Great, good job.
And that is the frustration of a lot of guys, of co-anglers that have fished these shared weight events. And so
Right.
they want to go out and test their mettle in these non-shared weight events, right?
Right.
And I appreciate that, because I was one of those guys that said I'm tired of losing to other guys that hadn't weighed a fish, and here I am, I'm catching these bags, weighing in fish. I'm not saying I did it every time, but
Right.
there's times where I, as a co-angler, I just smashed them from the back of the boat, and I didn't win nothing. I didn't get
Right.
nothing for my efforts.
Well,
That
yeah,
being said,
yeah. Go ahead.
I like that idea of hey, it's a two-person deal. Make it a 50-50. The co has to weigh 3 fish, and the pro has to weigh 3 fish.
Right.
Now let's see what happens. Let's see how much these co's really learn in a day. Because
And
they're going to get it. They're going to get.
and they don't change partners. That's what you're kind of saying too, right?
No, change
Oh.
partners.
Oh, okay.
Change partners.
Okay.
Because now, well, look, if one guy's out catching them with a Carolina rig in 40 foot of water, okay, and the co-angler, draws another guy the next day, who's, and let's say that co-angler's never thrown a Carolina rig, or he's proficient at it, and he starts catching fish, and he has to weigh in his 3 fish. He's better be proficient at it by the time the pro gets 100 yards down the bank, because his guy has to weigh 3 of his 6 fish allowed for the team for the day. Now he draws a guy who's throwing a spinnerbait in 3 foot of water, and a guy doesn't own a casting rod, and he's got to tell his guy, hey, show up. You don't have a casting rod? Okay, find one casting rod you can put 12-pound braid on, or 20-pound braid on, or we're going to throw a spinnerbait all day. And that's what we're going to do. Well, now it's like you don't have to say nothing. I'm fishing shallow, I'll be doing this, and this.
Right.
I've had guys go, don't bring anything on my boat. This is no joke. I've had guys tell me when I was a co-angler, don't bring anything on my boat with line on it that's less than 15-pound test. I don't want it on my boat. I get out there, I go fishing, and guess what? The guy picks up a spinning rod, and I got nothing. I just literally set my rod down and sat down. It was I just wanted to throttle the guy. But those are the facts. They're not there to help. They're not there to teach, help, anything. I mean, some of these guys are just ruthless because they think that's the way it is. But the fact is, the sport will never grow without those co-anglers, and they're needed.
Right.
But they're needed in certain areas, not in all areas.
Well, and that's, on the other side of that, what you said is the sport needs to grow, and you have to have co-anglers out there. But at the same time,
right.
The exact opposite of what you said is that it also needs to grow for the pros. And I think that's what, Mark, by having the pro tour, he saw something in Apex, and he was very behind it, very into it, and he knows there's a position for it, and there's a place for it. And with the BAM Pro Tour, starting off Lake Martinez in Arizona, it will be a pro tour, a true pro tour. There are no co-anglers. It's an invitation only thing. You have to be invited to it. You have to be a part of it. You have to qualify for it. You have to make it. And, it's first year, so nobody's qualified. But, in the next coming years, you'll have to qualify. And it's out there. Is that something that you... Well, let me rephrase that. Before I even start, let me rephrase what I was going to say. So as a guy who has been on all these different tours, you've been across the country, you've seen the way these things are run, you've been a part of the Apex, you've been a part. The West Coast is for our anglers, I feel like we are just chomping at the bit to get a pro tour, and the Apex was gonna bring that, and I think it went well. There were a few people always, negative about it, but do you feel like we're headed in the right direction out on the West Coast with this pro tour that BAM's putting on?
Absolutely. And to be honest with you, with the vision that was provided to us in the beginning of the Apex events, right? What was laid out made perfect sense. Because I'm not just an angler. I'm a tackle manufacturer.
Right.
I design lures for fishermen to catch fish, and business does better. So every time I help somebody else's business grow, whether it's a fishing pole, if it's iRod or seven reels, every time I help those guys grow, they're carrying my brand with them, right? And those are the things that are important. Now, boat companies have done this. This has all been mapped out. The truth is once you get past Texas, boat sales plummet. I mean, plummet. If once you get past Texas, you start coming this way, boat sales plummet, tackle sales plummet. We're gosh, I forget the numbers. I want to say we're like second or third sport fishing in California, second or third in the state of California in revenue, right? Behind walnuts and almonds, something like that. I got these numbers because I was doing some fighting the red bands that were coming through. But these things are, when you look at the sales of that, there's a lot of people out there that love the sport of fishing, mom and pop. I mean, nothing makes me happier than to go out and see a mom and dad carrying their two kids hiking down the steep hills of Shasta, and these kids are throwing rocks and everything else like that, and I'm listening to them talking, and nothing excites me more than to see the opportunity that one of those kids is going to reel in a fish one day, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to change him. It could be, the next Brian Kerschel, who's out there tooting his fish horn as amateur and wins the Bassmaster Classic. Those stories are just there. Or the Ricky Cluns, the love them, hate them, Mike Iaconellis, and those guys that are out there changing the sport by their actions and the way they're doing things. We as anglers, fishermen, professional fishermen, need to be looking at where we want this to go, and to tell you the seriousness of how this goes, right? I've had two. I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing to say, but I've been audited 2 times by the IRS because I'm a professional fisherman, and I write it off. I write it off everything appropriately. I don't have any need to fudge. Like I said, I use Mile IQ. I track every mile, where it goes, why it goes, which vehicle I use. I've been doing this for 30 years.
Right.
And so they didn't take it serious. I mean, I remember one of the questions was, it says here you've driven 15,000 miles. I said, yep. And the auditor goes, well, that's a lot of miles back and forth from Red Bluff to Shasta Lake, don't you think? And I'm looking at, I'm scratching my head going, I don't understand the question. I said, I don't understand the question. She goes, I mean, if you think about it, and she had already mapped this up, she was going to catch me. She was going to catch me. I mean, that would mean you'd have to go, 10,000 miles, from your house to there. How far is it? Roughly 105 miles is what you put down. Yeah. Well, I mean, 105 miles there, back forth. How many trips? That's 1,000 miles. You'd have to drive there like 3 times a day, every day. You do work, right? And as she's going on, I go, yeah, I guess you're right. I go, but did you see that, a couple of those were to Arizona. One of them was to the Red River, one of them was, or two of them was up to the Columbia River and then Clear Lake in the Delta. And I started going through all these things, and she started looking at me like, "Oh, so you don't just fish Shasta?" I go, "No, I fished Shasta like 3 times." Which is funny, and we talk about this.
Right.
It's my home lake, but for years, one tournament a year, and then the last 10 years, we really haven't had that many tournaments on Shasta. One tournament a year. Took a long hiatus. I fished Clear Lake and the Delta way more than I fished Shasta.
Yeah.
To be honest with you. So. But anyway, that we started chasing shiny stuff there. So
hey folks, Randall and I want to talk to you real quick about choosing the right electronics mount for your bass boat.
Mark and I have been partnered with Bass Boat Technologies from the very beginning, and we know the quality and effort that Van Foster has put into this company.
Custom, that's the one thing that I think about whenever I think of Bass Boat Technologies. Van Foster has spent years, not hours, years perfecting these mounts. He works with just about every bass boat company out there, most models for every bass boat company out there. He has spent the time working on these bass boats. So what you get is a custom fitted mount, not some mass produced universal mount for every bass boat out there. Van makes them custom fit for your bass boat.
Bass Boat Technologies also makes a lot of other custom parts. Seat pedestal plugs, tool holders, steering wheel spacers, and battery trays are all made with the same attention to detail that Bass Boat Technologies is known for.
Bass Boat Technologies is a vital part of our livelihood, and it's very important to your overall boating experience also.
Absolutely, and that's why we choose Bass Boat Technologies. Check them out at bassboattech.com. You'll be glad you did.
But no, that's kind of the point of what I was getting at, is that right there, if you'd have done that same thing in Alabama, I guarantee you that auditor would have never even thought about it. Oh,
Not
you
even
drove
blinked it
15,000 miles. Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yep. you were everywhere. Okay, because you're a tournament angler. And that's who, probably most of our audience has that in them. They're, anglers in general. They're tournament anglers. They're people who, just love this sport. You tune in to listen to a podcast because you want to hear about the person who just won Shasta, and you want to, what they did. Well, he just gave it to you, but you tuned in because you love the sport of fishing. And that's what we're talking about. And out here on the West Coast, I don't want to say that it's been neglected, because it hasn't been neglected. There are plenty of people out here, you just said it yourself, that enjoy the sport, that will hike down a mountain with their families to go to a lake and fish if they can, because that's what they can do. That's what we offer out here. But if you take that same thing, go, like you said, back towards, go the other side of Texas from here, go east, and you don't have to even think about it. You go to any lake and there's probably 5, 10, 15 boats on the lake that you see consistently every week, every other day. Guys get to see no other guys. On the West Coast, I feel like we have so much pride in our sports teams, the Niners, the Raiders, the Kings, the Lakers, you name it, the baseball teams, you name it. But when it comes to bass fishing, we've never had the opportunity to truly grow. As a guy who loves this sport, you love this sport, you are in this sport, you are a manufacturer of lures in this sport. What is it that we have to do? What do we have to push? How do we have to make this a real thing in people's eyes on the West Coast and say, no, there's a tournament circuit coming up. For the Pro-Ams, it's the BAM Trail right now. The Pro Tour, it's going to be the BAM Trail. Mark is trying to put on the best tournaments we can do and become something that you can make a living here on the West Coast with. But what do we have to do as anglers? And this is a question, or as people who love this sport, as people who just want to be fishermen in general, what do we have to do to create what they've created when you talk about MLF or when you talk about Bassmaster? We're
You
still
know,
young. We're
I think
still
a lot.
young.
Yeah. I think a lot of it's participation, right? I mean, here we are, and we'll just lay it on down. I mean, if I whip out the calendar, I'll just do a calendar deal, right?
Sure.
Here we are in January. We have a new gen tournament halfway through January, and then we do 3 weeks later we've got the one bass, and then 2 weeks later we've got 3 weeks later we've got BAM, and then a week later we have new gen, and 3 days later we've got MLF. MLF is a national organization. They're coming out here, and it has a feeder system to go through. They've made things much more difficult to qualify and to move through the system, but this is still a feeder system. Back in the day when BASS used to come out here and we were fishing opens, back in the day, again, I'm dating myself when I say this, but 2004, we had invitationals out here still, but anglers didn't really want to fish that non-shared weight series back then. I mean, they really didn't. And so, and it was a lot of money. And I would rather fish this tournament because I can fish with my buddy, and we can share expenses and everything else like that. But we have to grow the professional side of this to where a lot of these guys are pro co's. I mean, let's just say it. They've been out here doing this for 30 years alongside me that I've seen these guys, and they're happy being there because there's no expense of driving their boat. They don't have to pay the tour, expenses and entry fees. They don't have to pay all those other things. They don't have to pay the insurances for it. They don't have those expenses, and they just show up. They don't even have to pre-fish. I've had guys that have showed up with a couple of little bags and 4 rods, and go, okay, what exactly do I need with these 4 rods that I can get away with it? They ask me, I tell them, hey, do this, throw a Cinco, throw a drop shot, and throw a jig. Okay, cool, thanks. And off they go, and they're happy with that, and they do well. How am I going to catch fish behind you, Greg? No, this is it. Slow down, because that's what I'm doing. So, we've got that still. We need to build our professional angler pool up so we have enough people that can supply these tournament organizations their head count. I mean, that's when it comes down to it, it's a head count. We just had 3 tournaments back to back to back, right? 4 tournaments now, 5 tournaments back to back to back to back. Okay. Who in anywhere has enough money to pay the entry fees for each one of those things? I mean, there's a lot of guys that have enough money set aside to fish a circuit, maybe 2 circuits. Okay. Now let's say, who of those guys has enough time on the books to take vacation to do that? I mean, when you start looking at it like that, you go, that's a lot of guys. We need more guys. We need more guys. We need more gals coming into the sport. I'm a firm believer in that. I just love to see us get a women's only tour out here and grow it. And grow it to where we can send some of our women anglers out to the tour from here. We've got this stuff. We've got everybody out there, but I think we're just so lackadaisical into fishing buddy tournaments, team tournaments, that there's a lot going on. Not dinging them. I love fishing with my buddies. I have a great time.
Right.
But if we're trying to grow the sport, we need more guys driving boats as a professional. I mean, and here's the deal. If you're on the fence and you're going, well, I don't have the experience you do, I can tell you this. I didn't have the experience I did when I started. I remember the very first day that I drew a partner, and he came up to me and asked, okay, what are we going to do? And the first thing, I looked him straight in the eye and said, I'm sorry. This is my first tournament. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I don't know if I'm going to catch a fish tomorrow, but I think I got an idea. So you have,
yeah.
you have
that's how we all start, right? I mean, that's the whole point of you have to start somewhere. And I just look at this, and I'm sorry when I say this, but I'm one of those guys that I always look way in the future because I see everything as, okay, when I look out there, when I'm on the stage and I'm bringing you guys up there, I'm looking out and I see 25 people standing out in the crowds. I don't want to see that. I want to look out in those crowds, and I want to be standing up there talking to 3,000 people.
Yeah.
I want people to become fans of this sport.
Right.
And I think that's something that drives people to become pros, because when you when you walk across that stage, Greg, and you look out there, and you've been to the bigger stages, you've been to the Bassmasters Classic. When you look out there, you can't tell me that your heart doesn't race, that it doesn't jump, that you don't feel this, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I'm sitting in front of 70,000 people watching this event going on right now. That right there is, I think, to me, that's what we miss out here so much, is we don't have fans.
We don't have a fan base.
No.
That's really going to be tough.
I know you got to be careful, but it's one of those things that it's true. It's the truth, though, right?
No, it's not this is not a careful thing for me. I mean, back in the day, we had, even for the Bassmasters, we had the Casting Kids events. We used to have clubs that, back in the day, again, the clubs were clubs for people to go to and learn about bass fishing and do some things. But, most of them had a component built in that they had to go do. They had to do conservation acts.
Right.
So many days of conservation work to help the fisheries, right? And that's how the clubs were based back then. Bassmaster was it. There was no FLW, and so I was a member of a Bassmaster club, and we had to go out. We had to plant fish habitat, and we had to go out and help, the Christmas tree, collection. So we were doing all those things. We don't have that anymore. What we have are mini tournament organizations that's all they do. And for a $40 entry fee, they get to let out 15 minutes before the BAM tour guys do, so that they can get to the hottest spots first. And that's a real thing. That happened this weekend, and it was frustrating to me because it hurt me when I was fishing the elites on Clear Lake, where club anglers had pre-fished me and then turned around and ran out there. Where are we, pardon me, where are we building our resources? Where are we building our desire and our fan base? We would have picnics on these days where our families would go out and potluck and do things. We'd go out and camp together, as a group and do conservation acts. My son, my wife would bring my son to the Bassmaster events, and then my mom would stand there and watch him do the Casting Kids contest. When was the last time we talked about Casting Kids contests in California?
I don't know. It's been a very long time. Because I put one on when I was somewhere in my 30s. I put one on, and it's like, holy, it has been a long time since I've heard Casting Kids really even be talked about here on the West Coast.
Exactly. And Casting Kids, heck, it was my son that made me desire to go fish the pro tour. He was he took me to the Bassmaster Classic before I ever qualified for it as a California state champion.
Yeah.
And then regional champion. And here we are, man, at the Bassmaster Classic, one of 5 kids in his age group to cast in front of, when you say 70,000 people, we're talking 70 to 90,000 people.
Right.
And it's just amazing, the fan base out there, because it's a family atmosphere. We haven't had that here in a long time, because we've got too many tournament organizations just being, that's it. They're just tournament organizations that are there for that bottom line dollar. We're not doing anything for conservation. We're not growing the fan base. My wife's been sick for a long time. She would come down, and even when she was feeling kind of puny, she would be there, and she would watch me weigh in. I mean, my kid came down and watched me weigh in this last tournament. So, and his family. So he's bringing my grandkids down. They're getting to see. I let them in. I let them look in my bag, in the live wells, in the bump tanks, and I got pictures of them holding the trophy. And hopefully, one of those two or both of them will want to be competitive in fishing. But I know they both like fishing. We go fishing all the time, right? So, he's still working on that. Where's everybody else? Are we doing this stuff? Are we planning on growing the sport as individuals, or do we just want to be a pro someday? I mean, what's that mean to us? Man, my aspirations were to go back and fish the Bassmaster Tour, against Ricky Clunn and Denny Brower and Gary Klein, and I did it. I did it. I lived in my truck and ate dollar value meals off of the Wendy's thing, but I did it, by golly. I did it, and I did it for a couple of years. So it was really a neat thing. And then the elites came, same thing.
Right.
So here we are. We got to do things that are, they take more time. It does. It's not just about showing up, practice, go to the meeting. I mean, we're also spoiled from COVID now. We don't even want to go to the meetings and do the things that, back we used to have sponsor row, where you went and you were funneled through, and they gave you bags of goodies, and when you made it to the championship, you had your shirt, your jacket that was embroidered, with your name on it, and
patches. You had patches. You had a vest that had so many patches on it you could barely hold it up anymore.
I'd have to send you a picture, Ed. I've got it's a quilt, a handmade quilt.
Wow.
Where they used all just old tournament shirts from all these years that I'd saved. And my sister and my wife got together, Bobby and Wendy got together, and they made this giant quilt out of that, and it was like, that's cool. That's my champions room. So when friends come up, they sleep in the champions room.
Nice.
It gets them fired up to go fishing.
That's, and that's just listening to that, because that's what I think, Mark is bringing the BAM trail out. And this is what I hope you guys got from that, is that, he asked me to come in and be a part of this. And the first thing I thought of was, I want to give these guys the best show they can, because I want to bring the energy that they have on the East Coast for fishing. I have that energy. That's not even an issue.
Yes, you do.
I love this sport. So that's not a deal. I'm going to bring, you guys are going to have the best I can give you. But it's one of those things that I want, just like what you just talked about. And it's so funny, because I just had Gary Klein on, and he talked about the same thing, conservation.
Yes.
I think when you talk about this sport, we just talked about your tournament, and we just talked about how you fished and how long you put in and how many miles you ran and all that. And you said in there, I was looking at brush, I was looking at trees, I was looking at stuff. All these things in some lakes and a lot of places, those things have to be put in. People have to go out and do the work. They have to do the conservation. They have to make sure that there's places to fish, getting your family involved, getting your kids involved, casting kids, these things. Mark has, is putting his best foot forward. And if there's people out there that are listening right now, they're like, you know what? I'd love to see this become a Bassmaster kind of feel. Ray Scott started from ground zero. And right now, Mark's kind of doing that. And the first thing I want to say to everybody out there that's listening right now, this is not Wild West.
Not even close.
Mark is not the same person. He's not got the same attitude. Our tour is not going to be that. I'm sorry for what happened. It was devastating to a bunch of people. But put that out of your mind. This is not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same deal. So come be a part of it. Bring your kids, bring your family. If your kids like to fish, show some interest in it. You'll take them to soccer every day, but you won't take them to a local tournament weigh-in. Be out there. Be out there. And I guarantee you, if you come, we're going to have a blast. I'm going to make it as fun as I can. There's going to be conservation things that are coming in the future that we're going to have to put together. I think you're right in some sense that we need to have ways to get there through, like you said, clubs. We talked about it earlier when I first called you to talk about this show. I've known Greg for a long time, and we had talked about Brian Kershaw. Anybody listening right now that doesn't know who Brian Kershaw is, please go online.
Google him.
Yeah, Google it, because this was a guy who dreamt about exactly what we're talking about. I want to make the Bassmasters Classic. I can't remember where the whistle came from. It was his. I can't remember if it was a friend of his kid or his niece or I can't remember where it came from. But when you see the story behind that and you see what he did to make it to the Bassmasters Classic, watch his story. It is a story that should motivate you. And it's something that
would inspire you to do right.
Yeah, and it's something that I think that, Mark can put on out here, a true championship, growing something that can draw, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80,000 people to come view. I don't know if that can happen here in California, but gosh, I sure hope it could. I sure hope that there's enough people out there, right?
Yeah.
It would be so neat. I mean, it would be so awesome to look at. Honestly, I can't think. People say all the time, "Oh, how can you get up there and talk in front of those?" Give me more people. Put more people out there for us to go out there and talk to and show off that this is one of those sports that is so fair. Because you said it right here. You'd like to see more women come in and have their own group or have their way to get onto this pro tour. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because they're really good anglers and they enjoy the sport just as much as anybody else. And this is a sport that no one cares it doesn't care if you're a woman, a man, black, white, it doesn't matter. Those fish could care less. Period.
I love, here's what I love. I don't know if she's since moved, I think, to Tennessee. She's moved back east, right? She used to be a deputy sheriff, I think she was deputy. She was law enforcement. Terry Bittner was her name. And I didn't know Terry well, but I knew her. And I knew her well enough to where I conversed with her once in a while on Facebook. But honestly, she had goals to fish. She loved fishing. And what really got me is if she was ahead of me in the tournament, she made no bones about it. That Greg, you are the bar I set myself to. And anytime that I can be near you in the finish or above you, I'm going to celebrate because you are the bar that you set. So she set for herself, and she has been that way as long as I've known her. I mean, even now I see her out there. She's just a hell of an angler, And there
Right.
are plenty of women out there that are that good,
Right.
and with a little bit of grooming, can be that much better, and that much tougher. I mean, we have husband and wife teams that go out there,
Oh yeah.
and they're doing it. I mean, they're doing it. So it's just opening up a window to where we can get these things to take off. I mean, we have these high school teams, and we have college teams. The college teams I think are obviously they are what they are. I mean, let's
Right.
take the Red Hawks up there out of Reading. I mean, they're a top-notch team. Chico State had a top-notch team. I know, from here, Sac City had a really pretty good team. I mean, and these people of Oregon had top-notch teams. These guys have represented us across the country
Hmm.
at collegiate levels. How cool is that now? But there it is. But we need these guys converting. We need them coming into the upper tiers of our professional leagues here. We're getting them. It's just slow. We just
Right.
need more. That's
Well, and that's one of those things too that I think that you hit that right on the head there, is that these college teams, you just name college teams that are right here. And in order for them to go anywhere, where do they have to go? They have to find money, they have to find time, they have to find effort, and they have to go all the way across the country to fish.
they're driving all the way across the country to fish. It's true.
Exactly. And it's one of those things that please come support BAM, because I'm telling you right now, there needs to be a trail here that people from Oregon, Washington, Arizona, Chico, Sacramento, California, wherever, that they can go and say, hey, I don't have to go across the country. We have a pro tour here that I can take my sponsors, I can take this, and I can become a professional, and I can become the next Kevin Van Dam, which is tough, but hey, I can become that guy. And I think that so many people strive to be the next Gary Klein. Back in our day, Denny Broward, Gary Klein, Rick Clunn, you name it, they strive to be those. Then it was Kevin Van Dam, and now it's, who's next? Which guy, which young gun is the new gun to be out there? Who's the great, the new GOAT? Who's the new person? Well, in my opinion, there's some really good anglers, young anglers on the West Coast. And we lost some of the guys, we lost Cody Meyer, he's now fishing back east. Skeet Reese back east. These are young, I mean, Skeet's a little older. He's not young, but there's still some really good anglers out here. I mean, Ish Monroe's still fishing. I mean, he was at this event, and it's one of those things. It's like, here's one of the top pros in the country. Everybody knows him. Everybody knows who he is. Yet he was right here in California supporting this organization, because this is where he truly loves to be. And it really means a lot that these colleges and they need a way to get here. They need a way to stay here and say, hey, I can make a living here.
Hang on, Ed. Now let's just don't throw the old guys out. I mean, we may be old, but some of us still got a little left in the tank, right? No, I understand, and you're right. There's a lot of new guys out there, but we also need to keep. We can't cycle out through attrition too fast. We just can't. That's why I'm still doing it. I still feel I'm 62 years old, and I bounce around on the boat pretty good. Most guys don't realize I'm even in my 60s, but I'm an old guy, and how long do I have left? I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I could break a hip one day, falling in the live well. I don't know, but I'm pretty spry in the boat, and I'm still moving pretty good. I have a lot of experience and knowledge that proven has helped me even last week. So our building up needs needs to keep coming. That's what
Right.
I'm saying. We need to start tapping these other resources for anglers, and people need to grow. I mean, if it came down to this being a podcast and everybody goes, how did Greg Gutierrez do it? I could say it this way. I caught the lion's share of my fish using 2 rods. Both of them were, spinning rods. I did throw jigs on some casting rods, but hey, I caught them on this rod, I caught them on that rod. And I could do that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that will want me to tell you exactly what I'm doing. So if we have time, I will tell you exactly how and what I did. I mean, I would love to share that with you because it's important. I mean,
Yeah.
but they were tools for the time, right? They're
Right.
tools for the time, and the time was what it was right then and there. So, but we have all these things that we need to be able to do and say, but man, we just need more people to participate in the stuff that nobody wants to participate. We're spoiled from COVID, where nobody wants to come to a meeting anymore.
Right.
Again, nobody wants to come to the meeting because we're spoiled from COVID. Just text it to us. We'll show up there and everything will be fine. Well, then they wonder why the sponsors don't want to throw money at them.
Right.
Look, a sponsor wants to see you guys show up so that you can see our banners, our reps can talk to you. We can give you a bag of jerky or show you our graphs, what makes our graphs better, what makes our trolling motor better. Those people are there to talk. Give them 5 minutes, give them 2 minutes of your time, go through, thank them for being there and supporting. I mean, honestly, it's that important. I mean, people are sacrificing, they're putting money out, they're paying money to have us as anglers show up to these events.
Correct.
I mean, that's why we got all the patches on our boats and shirts and stuff like that.
Right. I
Honestly.
mean, it is.
We're marketing.
And that's exactly what you are. You're a big giant tool.
Yep.
To go out there.
Oh man, calling me a tool now.
Yeah. Flash your boat, flash your shirt, flash your everything, your jerseys and all this stuff out there to say, hey, these people support me. And if they support me, they're supporting this industry. If they're supporting this industry, if you love this industry, then support them. That's all you're asking, right? Every one of our sponsors out there that, Tackle Warehouse, the BBT, Bass Boat Technologies, this whole thing goes with all of these different organizations that have come out and said, hey, we want to be a part of this new stuff that's coming around. We need to be a part of the West Coast. We want to make our name out here. Bass Cat Boats. I mean, you mentioned them that this is, hey, they're great on mileage. They get you the best everything. Rick Pierce has been behind the West Coast out here for how long now? And
he's been here
and he's been putting his best foot forward every single time I turn around. That guy is standing at everything.
Here's a bit of trivia, or not trivia, a bit of the past. My very first boat that I won was on Shasta Lake. It was Angler's Choice Tournament Trail. When they came back, they gave a boat out for first and a boat out for second. And while we were there, before they came out, we were paying $300 entry fees to fish for a Ranger boat. Bass Cat comes out with Angler's Choice, and they're charging $400 in a non-shared weight tournament. You don't want us to fish. We're not going to do that. The buddy tournaments were in heavy. Right. And why do we want to pay $400 when we could pay $300? Well, because they're giving away 2 boats, Right. And so I won that tournament. I won a 1997 Bass Cat Pantera. I still have that boat to this day. I sold it and I bought it back from a friend's family member who passed away shortly after I bought it from him, and he was so happy that I had that boat back in my hands. It was like meant to be. But I still have that boat, the original boat I won. But I've known Rick Pierce since then. I fished for somebody else. For 30 years, I fished out of another boat brand. But Rick Pierce was the only guy that came back and said, I know who you are. I know how you do it. I'll support you.
Yeah.
So he's that guy when it comes down to coming out and supporting the West. I mean,
yeah.
I know that
the
Ranger for you has done it. Yeah, I know a lot of these guys have done it and supported anglers out here. Right, wrong, or indifferent, whoever these guys are, their sponsors, we need to be supporting these folks. We really do. From the BBT motor mount or fish finder mounts to whatever. I mean, there's a lot of them out there. Amazon kind of kills a lot of this stuff, but you're not going to get better quality than a BBT mount for your graph. No one's going to jack your stuff. It's not going to shake off your boat. It's just quality stuff. Why aren't and that's why they're here. They're here to promote their brand and have people like me that use their stuff explain it. And that's what I do.
And that's what we're out here to do. So I'll tell you what, we gotta wrap this thing up. We went a little long, but oh well, that's what
yeah.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that. That's what header buttons are for, and we'll fix all that and make it right. And we've got Oroville next coming up on March 15th through the 17th. The BAM Trail will be on Oroville. You just listened to how the champion from Shasta did it. I'm not saying he's going to win, but you may be hearing from him again. He is a dang good angler. He's been doing this for a little while, and he just came out, gave you a lot of information, and I hope you learned from it. And I hope you listened to some of the things that, if you're on the West Coast, this is what we need. And if you're everywhere else in the country, keep your eye on the West Coast. We're going to be doing our best to get bigger, badder, and better. And we have some of the best anglers in the country. And I know that Greg has competed against them, and I know that he appreciates it. And, they're out. It's out here. There are enough kids, young guys coming up right now that have got some potential for this sport for sure. Come out and check them out. See who they are. Would you agree with me, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Come on out. And guys, I'm on Facebook, Greg Gutierrez, gosh, what is it? Greg Gutierrez Fishing now. I had to start a new one because, it was just normally just plain old Greg Gutierrez. And on Instagram, Double G Pro Angler. And if you have questions, you want me to gut it down to exactly the line, anything like that, I'm open, guys. The tournament's gone. I'm open. You learn from it. You use it. Good on you. See you at the next one. That's how I feel. So.
All right, Greg. Well, thank you, man, for coming in again. This is you're always a wealth of knowledge, and I know I struggle with hanging up the phone with you because you bring such an energy.
We could go on for another hour.
I know, but it's one of those things that I always have to cut the line and say, you know what, we'll talk at the next one, and I'll see you at Orville, man. We'll see you at Orville.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Thank you for. Everybody out there for tuning in. I hope this is a show that you really enjoyed. I know I did, and for me, it's always great to talk to someone who represents our sport so well, and it's amazing, an amazing guy. So, again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. BAM Pod.
Yeah.